Start with the unit base. And we want to clip the PCB back down into it. And there's these little clips here on the sides that the board latches down into, and I thought for a second I broke that one, but I didn't. So the board sits in there like that. Oh, that's fun. Got caught in there. We've got these four guys. That sit down over the posts here that the drive will rest on. The drive itself, and the first thing I'm going to want to do is clean the heads. Well, we can clean the head after we get everything plugged back in. So in this case, I know the red went to the right. And then the drive just kind of set down in there, like so. Reference the pictures we took yesterday. Photos. So yeah, the red was to the right, red to the right, yellow. Oh my God, that's tight. That direction. J11 starts with J11 on the 4 pins down here. Then it moves on to J12, which is this guy, again with the markings facing me. If I can get it to start. And then we've got the one that is backwards. And we've got J10. Let's come over to the other end, J14, which is 3 pins. And then J10. And then J, not sure, is it even marked on here? Looks like J1, and this is the one that goes in backwards. So if I can get it down in between those, with the red lead to the right. So we've got J11, J12, J10, J14. Wires all look intact. I don't see evidence of anything being wrong. Yeah, we're going to want to lubricate this as well. Do a little clean and lubricate. But at this point, we can actually power it up, and we should see the head step out and come back, and that would tell us that the electronics are waking up and that the track 0 sensor is working, or the park sensor as it seems to be called in some videos. So let me get the transformer back up here on the bench. I know I'm leaning in the shot. I believe power's off. DC power in. That's exactly what should have happened. So, cycle the power. It should step out and back in. So what it's doing is, this is really track 0, I mean. It's getting the head in the position where track 0 on the floppy would be. And so at power up, it doesn't really know where it is. And if the track 0 sensor is blocked, it'll step the head out until the sensor is not blocked, and then block it back. And that'll guard against the head being too far back. You know, I can actually move it at least one more step back from where track 0 is. So it'll step it out, bring it back, and it's happy it's at track 0. If we move it way out to the end, it tried to move forward, jammed and couldn't, and then came back. And of course in the middle here, it'll step forward and then back. We of course have the head load assembly here. In this case the head is always loaded. The lever down. The spindle assembly here, which actually feels rather stiff, and I'm not sure why. We will see the motor. I don't know, well, here, let's actually close it. And you should see this wheel spin for a second on power up. And just keep spinning. That's interesting. So if I have the mechanism open, it'll spin and then shut it down. So apparently it's smart enough to know if that's engaged or not. So, do I have a Q-tip or two laying here? Excuse my reach. The heads actually look pretty clean. But we'll go ahead. I should be powered off. Not that it matters. Actually, now that I look at the head, it actually looks pretty dirty. You actually see what seems to be a brown mark on there. I don't know. Hopefully this won't swamp the camera. Yeah, it's actually really dirty. So we do need to clean that head. Wonderful. The little paper foam sealer stayed on the bottle. A little bit of alcohol in the lid. And I'm just going to sit it on there and let it soak for a second to try to knock that loose. Yep, that knocked it loose. Whatever that was on there, it was brown, which to me looked like the oxide. Yeah, definitely that little brown spot come off, and it looks kind of like the oxide off of a floppy. So some things to notice about floppies. Floppy disks are just getting old. I'm having more and more just fail from age. The oxide can grind, or can be ground basically off the floppy itself and become impacted in the head. So if you've got a drive that, you know, it's working, and you put a disk you never put in, and it fails, and every disk after that fails, the odds are the oxide has come off that disk and has the head all gummed up. Q-tip, a little cotton swab. As I did, you saw me soak it for a second, just with the swab, and then wipe, and yeah, that head looks nice and clean now. I have no problem with how that looks at all now. So you want very pure alcohol if you can get it. I actually use a 99.9% premium. It's actually an electronics grade alcohol. So 99.9%. It's not watered down or any such thing. I do use a fair amount of it in this hobby, so it really doesn't look to me like those rails need to be cleaned. I'm not seeing huge amounts of buildup on them, but I think they could probably take a little drop of oil. You've seen me use this oil before. I used to use WD-40 is not a lubricant, and I've actually used it as a lubricant a couple of times mistakenly. It is a water. It's for dissipating water. You put it on a metal surface and it keeps the water from, clinging to the surface. You can use 3-in-1 oil like this. I've read several times when people say this will gum up over time because the solvents will evaporate out. It says it's a long-lasting lubricant. I've used this in the past too, but I finally settled on, at least for now, this is a clock oil. We've kind of talked about it on the channel before. It's a very fine lubrication oil. I think it's really similar to what they call sewing machine oil. So I've kind of settled on this. It shouldn't gum up over time. It's really lightweight. Then get a little tiny drop. Yep, little tiny drop. And with a little applicator here, I'm able to get really fine little drops. And I'm going to move it forward, and I'm going to lubricate on the other side. And these are tiny little drops I'm applying. Try to keep my head out of the way. Oh, that's much smoother already. Definitely. And you can actually see where the little bit of dust on the rails has been cleared off. So the rails actually were dirtier than I thought. But I'm going to call that good enough. The other thing that seems really stiff is this guy to me. And I think I'm going to try to just put a little drop of oil kind of in there. See if that'll loosen it up any. Might be able to add a little bit more here with it spinning. Well, there's a micro switch there to tell when that's down. That's how the drive knows. I think that's everything I want to actually use the oil on. We'll go with some lithium lube in some other places. It's not sitting where it's supposed to be sitting. No matter how carefully I put things away. Oh, there it is. It's definitely not sitting where it's supposed to be. Put this away. It's a really fine oil, but the head mechanism, the movement of the head, definitely eased up. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this. This is just a white lithium grease. It's a multi-purpose lubricant, as it says, and I'm going to put it in places like where this lever moves against the plastic there. I'm going to put a little bit in there. Doesn't need much. Certainly caught a little bit of it under there. Wipe some of that excess off. I'm just going to put a tad. Again, this doesn't need a whole lot. I'm not sure this is even going to do any good here, but I'll add a little and bring it back, and then we'll wipe it. relying mostly on what's on the little plastic bar. There's a really light film of it there. Again, I don't think that was necessarily needed, but I went ahead and did it. There's a piece that rotates inside of there. But I actually think I'm going to break that screw loose on. Definitely not that screwdriver. And just lift this off. I'm going to put a little bit doesn't need a heck of a lot. Just a little bit there where that rubs up against the little bar there. So this little bar sits here. I don't see any way for that lubricant to fall down and get onto a disc from up here. So it just gets a little bit of lubricant there. The mechanism's nice and quiet. I see other places I could maybe attempt to get some in, but I'm not going to try. I don't see the need for it. I don't know. I kind of feel like that's pretty much it. We've cleaned the head. We've added a little bit of lubrication in some places. We can see that the drive works. This really is just step back through assembly. Trying to remember. How this went on. It does seem to hook. Okay, that's how it was on. We should now have the top. I'll actually go ahead and put this in just so it's there. Just to help protect the heads while I'm handling it here. Not that I think that's really important. The 3 rubber stoppers are still on here. This appears to hook down and then kind of rotate into place. Maybe. It does not seem like it's on correctly. That's because the case hasn't, on this side over here. A little bit trickier than it seems. Don't want to dump the drive out. I wonder if I should put those screws in first to kind of hold that stationary. They were separate screws. There's not different lengths here, is there? It didn't seem to be. It's just interesting that there's 6 kind of gold and 6 kind of regular colored screws. Where's the big Phillips? I'm going to hope that catching the bezel in tight first makes the most sense. You can hear the little pop as I turn it backwards and it drops into the original threads. Right there. So I'm not cutting new threads into the plastic posts. That should support the floppy drive. That should keep that from moving around too much. And now we'll try again. Come in. And we rotate. And on this side, oh, I see what I've done. I need to be outside like that. There it went. Not too tricky, it's just a matter of getting everything in the right order. I think we're good there. Kind of got to fish around first for the hole. There it fell down in. You heard that little pop as I turned it backwards. Actually a fairly loud pop. Again, that was the screw dropping into the original threads. I know I harp on this every video. But you know, if you eventually sell this, they're not going to be stripped out. If you need to open it up again for yourself, they're not going to be stripped out. It's just, you know, it is a better way of doing it. I actually had a viewer comment on it just yesterday, I think. It's just and as I said back to him, it's just a really good habit to get into. So very clean. I'm not going to do a surface clean on this. I don't see a reason to. That one just a little bit of turn and popped right in. These don't need to be super tight. I did use two of the same color here just because it would look a little nicer. Get the sleeve out, power on. We heard it go as it stepped.